allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day that you bring us safely all together. Help safeguard the first responders that serve and protect our community. Watch over our military men and women who are stationed around the world keeping us safe. Please guide us with wisdom during our meeting to help us lead our community in a positive direction. It is 1 o'clock for December 18th, regularly scheduled City Commission meeting. Do we have a quorum, Madam Clerk?
Yes, ma'am.
It's Commissioner Fankhauser's turn to do the flag, Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, be with us today during this meeting. Be with our military at this time and all of our first responders. We ask that you remind us during this time the true meaning of Christmas. Be with those in attendance today. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Any additions or corrections to the minutes that were presented? If none, they'll stand as presented. Public comment, this is a time where we set aside for anybody that would like to come forward and speak on any issues that are not on the agenda. We give you 5 minutes, and if you do come forward, please state your name for the record. Okay, moving on to item number 6.
6A, the City of Garden City and the Garden City Police Department would like to recognize Alan Watson as a recipient of the GCPD Community Service Award for his contributions to the department's Law Enforcement Explorer program.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Today I stand before you to recommend or commend Alan Watson, who was formerly with the Boy Scouts of America, who coordinated with myself in December of 2015 about implementing the Police Department's Law Enforcement Explorer program. Ellen worked tirelessly behind the scenes and assisted in many mundane yet vital tasks such as conducting research on successful programs, ensuring compliance with BSA regulations, as well as offering outside ideas, opinions, and his vast knowledge of youth programs for the Law Enforcement Explorer advisors to utilize in the Explorer program. Alan has demonstrated a level of commitment towards the Explorer program that would be considered rare for non-employees of the department. Alan has joined the initial group of the Explorer Program Advisors for their first meeting in Topeka and attended multiple Explorer meetings, many of which were on his own time and at his personal expense. His actions are a significant part in making our program the success it is today. Although Alan is no longer employed with Boy Scouts of America, he is still continuing his volunteerism with the organization and working with the kids in our advisor group. With me is Senior Master Patrol Officer Rob Scribner, who would like to present the recognition to Alan Watson with the mayor as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate it.
Picture up. Come here.
Sure. That's yours, not mine.
Look at that. There we go.
Good.
All right. Thank you, Alan. Item 6B, the governing body, 6B, the City of Garden City and the Garden City Police Department would like to recognize Rod Furkey as a recipient of the GCPD Community Service Award for assisting an elderly member of the community in his time of need. Chief?
Thank you, Matt. Good afternoon again. This is just an example of some of the calls that our dispatch center gets in communications. On June 15, 2018, the communication center received a call from a man seeking assistance for his 91-year-old father who resided in the central part of the city. The caller was attempting to locate a senior citizens assistance group in the area that could help his father because his father's door had fallen off and was too heavy for him to put on his own. Communicator Huber was the employee that took the call, and rather than just saying, we'd be glad to help you, but that's not in our purview, she continued to do some research. She worked and she offered several options to the caller to include contacting the local lumber yards and the company that made the door. However, the caller felt that the door was no longer under warranty, so Communicator Huber contacted Rod Firking with Firking Construction, whom she knew personally. Communicator Huber informed Rod of the problem with the door and offered to pay for the services if he was able to assist. Rod and his company responded, completed the job, which turned into a several-hour project because the whole door frame had fallen out. The 91-year-old man spoke very little English, and Rod left a Spanish-speaking foreman at the house for the duration of the job and learned that the man was in his 90s and his wife had passed away a few weeks before this incident. When Communicator Huber again offered to pay Rod for his company's assistance, Rod said that they were happy to help Mr. Hernandez in the time of need and did not take the payment. Rod and his company donated man-hours and material in which they received no compensation to assist the elderly member of our community. His efforts ensured that the 91-year-old resident of Garden City's door was secured for his safety and well-being, and further showed that members of our community will help one another in times of need. Communicator Huber was the recipient of the Police Department's Meritorious Service Award on October 18th of this year for the assistance she provided, and would be here today to help recognize Rod Firking, except calls for service required her to respond to an incident. So with that, I'd like to recognize Rod Firking with the Community Service Award for 2018. Rod.
Thank you very much. Good? All right. Thank you very much. Okay.
The City of Garden City and Garden City Police Department would like to recognize explorers from the GCPD Law Enforcement Explorer Program for their participation in the 2018 Bartlesville Extreme Law Enforcement Explorer Competition in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Chief?
Thank you, Matt. Again, the Explorers had their second competition, which was in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. And I'm going to turn it over to Senior Master Patrol Officer Rob Scribner, who's the Senior Advisor for the Explorer Program, to talk more in depth on what transpired and how well our Explorers did.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon. So I'd just like to mention a couple things about this competition. This is our second competition that we participated in as an Explorer group, and we've been at it we started our post in May of 2017. But one thing that's unique about this competition is that we were one of 8 teams that was personally invited to this competition. And I had the opportunity to talk with the gentleman that put it on, and he said the reason that we were invited for this is that they had witnessed our Explorers in the Topeka competition, and they were very impressed for a first-time team that competed, and so they thought that we should be up there competing as well. So out of that, out of the 8 that were invited, we had there was 4 of us that competed in that competition. Our group, as in the memo indicates, we placed in every event, and one other unique aspect of it is we took first place in a, quote, non-winnable scenario. And so anyway, I would like to introduce the Explorers that made this happen. So come on up. I'd also like Officer Steve Edler to come up as well. I have with me Elmer Santiago.
Preston Dunlap.
Drew Unruh.
Brecken Olson.
John Santiago.
And then, like I said, Officer Steve Edler is also an advisor with the program and did an outstanding job to make sure that these young men were ready to go on such a short notice for this competition. So, thank you.
Congratulations. You guys have anything to say, or?
Yeah, any favorite stories from the competition?
We had a lot of people run from us.
Yes.
But no, I was proud of all of us. I think we all did good. I was confident in us and that we do good, and we did. So I'm just proud of all of us, you know.
I found it ironic that you're post 1911 and you won the 911.
Yeah, I thought that was, yeah.
Well, congratulations. Thanks for representing us all very well.
Chief.
Next year, we will be hosting
Oh, wow.
a competition here in Garden City.
Oh,
So,
okay.
the advisors are working with Alan and the explorers at developing it here and having it here in Garden City. So we're excited about that. And these young men and ladies have helped us in the Christmas parade and other events. So they're a great asset to our organization, our community.
Yes.
So we greatly appreciate what they do for us.
Hopefully looking at law enforcement in the future and.
Yes, we've already been having those discussions. Looking forward to pinning their badges on them, and some of them are looking at going to college here, and so we're going to help guide them along. So we do appreciate that.
Sounds good.
Thanks
Thank you
a
very
lot.
much. Congratulations.
Item 6D, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a request to allow the mayor to proclaim December 13th, 2018 as Ashley Freeburg Day in Garden City. And Ashley's last day was the 13th, and she's, I think, beginning in the city of Prairie Village this week. So we wish her the best, and she was certainly instrumental in getting our communications effort up and running over the last 7 years. So we appreciate all the work she did, and thank you, Mayor, for presenting her the proclamation.
Yeah.
Now, if we can get
Entertain a
approved,
motion.
it'll make it all.
Yeah,
better.
I would move that we approve December 13th as Ashley Freeburg Day.
There's been a motion. Is there a second? There was a second. Any other discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed. All right.
Item 6E, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a request from Eli Smith to allow the mayor to proclaim December 2018 as Veterans Suicide Awareness Month in Garden City, Kansas.
I'll make that motion.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's been a second. Any other discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed.
One more item that the Utilities Department made me aware of. Tenemac, who did our tank painting project, included us. We were in the running for Tank of the Year, but didn't get Tank of the Year, but we got a
picture?
feature in their calendar. So
Hey,
wow.
we're April,
Yeah.
right
yeah,
on.
Awesome.
we're in April. So
Springtime.
yeah, very neat to see what people do with their that canvas that is a water tank, and we're all pretty proud of the one that.
I like the one where they
that we
say
did.
hot, cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have two of them together.
We don't want to further confuse the public. All right, so I think that concludes the petitions. We'll move on to the report of the city manager, and I'll have Mike Muirhead come up and present an update on the sanitary sewer project that was recently completed.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. We have a series of photographs here. Typically, we don't do a whole lot of bragging on our sanitary sewer system. It's not something that a lot of people want to talk about or hear about. This project was ended up being a $1.4 million project. This was the pipe that was in failing condition last May. It actually collapsed. The top of that pipe collapsed, is what brought it to our attention. And then as Matt scrolls through, you'll be able to see what the inside of that pipe looked like. We immediately came, we made emergency repairs, of course, And then we came in with a camera and cameraed the entire section of pipe, basically from Campus Avenue east to the wastewater treatment plant. And these pictures are kind of hard to see, but you can see the insides of this just actually coming apart and coming. That pipe was probably installed in the late 1950s, so it served its purpose well. However, it's one of the main interceptors of sewage from town to the wastewater treatment plant. Had that actually completely collapsed and failed, we'd have had close to 2 million gallons of sewer backing up somewhere. Fortunately, that did not happen. We had emergency plans in place should it have happened. We were prepared, but it didn't. Anyway, long story short, we bid out the 30-inch sewer replacement project, and here's a series of pictures. The new green pipe is the new sewer line that's going to be into place. The round concrete things are manholes being constructed. You can see in some of the pictures there's a steel pipe around the PVC pipe. That's where we went underneath the bypass. So we have a 30-inch sewer pipe inside of a 40-inch piece of steel pipe that protects it from collapsing with the traffic and et cetera going underneath there. This is just more pictures as we cruise along the kind of like the DFA side road that comes into the backside of to Meese Trucking. Another one, this sewer in places was about 18 feet deep, 19 feet deep. So you can see they had quite the apparatus in place to keep all the dirt and everything away safe-wise. There was no safety, there was no injuries on this project. We had to bore underneath the bypass. So it's a big piece of equipment there that, not that one, but you'll see it here in a little bit where that's where we bored that steel pipe underneath the interstate. And there's a big piece of that pipe there, as you can see. This project actually started on October 1st, and it was completed on December 7th. So that's a very rapid. It got done in a big hurry, and we're very grateful for that. There's another piece where it's coming out of that steel pipe into a manhole. I think that's on the west side of the bypass. And as Matt scrolls on, you'll be able to see us putting the manholes together. A couple of coming up pretty quick show a material that we spray on the inside of the manholes. It's an epoxy seal that seals the manhole because the gases are so bad. It eventually just eats that concrete up. So we spray everything and line it. Probably gives you another 20 years of life out of those manholes. The contractor was Meese Construction. We had several bids on the project that come from. We had one from Michigan. We had one from Iowa. It was a big project. So Meese Construction was awarded that bid. We just thought you might be interested and get to see. You don't get to see very often in the sewer system. We can't brag about nothing because you can't see it. So, and that's a good thing most of the time. So.
Did you put this right beside the old one?
No, it separates it probably in some places 50, 60 feet. We had to stay far enough away not to disturb the soil around the old one.
Okay.
So we obtained new easements from the west property owners, and then of course from the city and DFA on that DFA property where we went into the wastewater plant.
Mike, this is the epoxy that you're...
Yes, it is,
Where was Nice out of? Where are they located?
You know where
Conduit,
their
I
office,
think.
their main office is? I think. Wichita. Is it Wichita? Okay, thanks, Gary. Wichita. And that lining that we do, and here you can see where they're actually pulling some sandbags out of the old to divert the flow into the new one. I guess that's about it for picture-wise, but I thought you might be interested in seeing
good.
that as a
Yeah.
project.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item 7B through 7H, with the exception of 7E, are all staff reports. If you've got questions on those, I'm sure the staff would be glad to try to answer them. 7E was just a customary update from Cox Communications regarding lineup changes. If there aren't any questions on the report of the city manager items, then I'll draw your attention to meetings of note. Southwest Kansas Night Out on Topeka has been set for the 28th, and we'll get information regarding rooms and whatnot for the night of the 28th. If you are interested in going to the Southwest Kansas night out in Topeka, please let Sealin know, and we'll begin making plans accordingly. I think we're ready for 9A, which is the appropriation ordinance. If approved, it would be number 2473-2018A.
I'll move that we approve appropriations ordinance 2473-2018A.
There's been a motion.
I'll second.
There's a second. Any discussion on that item? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed.
Item 10A, the governing body asked to consider the proposed resolution regarding Garden City Police Department concerning a revision to the existing uniform practices related to the issuance of own reconnaissance bonds, or OR bonds, for individuals arrested for violations of the Code of Ordinances. If approved, it would be resolution number 2769-2018. Jimmy?
Thank you, Matt. Mayor, Commissioners, good afternoon. We have a few people here today to discuss this. Myself, the city prosecutor, Alicia Waycamp, she's the court and defendant coordinator, so she's in charge of municipal court, and then Captain Courtney Pruitt from the police department, of course. So we've kind of all worked together to address some proposals to our OR bond policy. And just a little bit of history, I think if you can all recall, I think it was a couple of years ago, to comply with some federal and state requirements, we changed our bonding policy. It used to be where if you were arrested, you were given a bond based on a schedule, based on what kind of crime you committed. If you could not post that bond, you were released on an OR bond after 48 hours. We had changed that to now where everybody who's arrested by the Garden City Police Department on municipal charges is released on an OR bond. There's no type of financial security that they have to post in order to be released. We do have a couple of conditions depending on the situation. If somebody is possible danger to the community and needs a cooling down period, they are able to be held for an additional 6 hours. Now the officers have to articulate that for that specific person. Also, in the case of where there's a crime committed against a person, there is a no contact condition that's put in place as well. So that person then cannot have any contact as well. And there's also another one for if somebody is under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and the officers are able to articulate that they need to kind of have a little bit of a waiting period, that person can be held for an additional 6 hours as well. So what that has happened with that is there have been some police and community safety concerns that have been brought up, and Captain Pruitt can talk about that a little bit. One thing that we have seen is there are people who are released on an OR bond. They're arrested for, let's just say, a criminal trespass. They're arrested by the police. The police complete the paperwork and they bond out. Well, then that person, then as soon as they bond out, goes right back to the location when there was a criminal trespass. Captain Pruitt, if you want to kind of discuss the issues involved with that.
Absolutely. From the law enforcement perspective, the safety of the community, the safety of our officers, and even the safety of the suspect is important. We've had about 25, and I say about 25 because we're still computing the numbers, but about 25 over the last year where we've had to arrest somebody within a 12-hour period again for another charge, a new crime that was committed. Some of them we've arrested another time within that 12-hour period too. So up to 3 times we've arrested people. Each of those times it gets more and more confrontational between bad guy and the police officers. It also gets confrontational with the jail staff too, because each time they have to go back up and go through the very quick process, and then they get OR'd again. So absolutely a safety concern for us, and I really think it's important for the safety of the public and our officers. Any questions?
I had a question. I think, some of this was brought up in earlier when Mr. Dimmermuth presented to the commission during a pre-meeting about court practices and how he works with folks. But as I was reading this, I thought maybe, and you can tell me if I'm wrong in my assumption, a lot of these would be, or could be, people driving with a suspended license, or is that a different class of ordinance, or, and getting rearrested, again, driving, not having their license, And I know you said that there can be some arrangements that you guys make with folks who are trying to get their license back, but I can see people trying to get their kids to school, go to work, maybe not in the course of, what you're describing, sir, is committing another, a crime versus, not that driving without a license is not a crime, but that's what I'm saying here, where that you kind of get that cycle where the time frame of being able to get your license back takes a little bit longer. Is that a misassumption on my part?
Well, I don't think it's a misassumption. I think that municipal court does a very good job working with people who want to be worked with.
So we're talking about a different class of things that are happening outside of it.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was the impression I got earlier from your presentation. Thank you.
Yes, and to address your concern a little bit more, it could apply in that situation. If somebody has been arrested on a driving while suspended, and they're OR bonded, and they cannot have any future law violations if they do get in that they're driving while suspended, yes, they could be arrested on a revoked, or have a bond revoked in that situation. Now, it would all be up to the officer's discretion. Sometimes people are not even arrested on driving while suspended or no valid driver's license. A lot of times they are just cited and released as well. So a lot of that could be falling back on officer discretion. If somebody has a compelling reason to not be arrested, then officers can take that into consideration. Hopefully they're not. That's that.
Any other questions?
Well, I wasn't, so I just want to make sure, so who initiates the change? If the proposal is adopted, who initiates the change? Is it the court, or is it the police officer? Who makes that decision whether or not they're held, rather than without a bond? Who makes that decision?
So I think collectively we're initiating the change.
Okay.
It's a process. It'll start with the officer recontacting somebody who has a new law violation. They would get arrested again. And then we would go through then the process would start of now they're not being released like they were, within 30 minutes or 45 minutes. They're walking out the door, and the officers haven't even completed the paperwork yet. So I hope that answers the question. It's a
No, I appreciate, that's what it seemed like when you were reading through it, but I wasn't sure. I just want to make sure.
And then each person would, of course, come into municipal court, and the judge would conduct a full bond hearing, and maybe the judge would release that person on an OR bond, or maybe the judge would decide based on criminal history that that person needs to post a cash bond or maybe a corporate surety bond, and then we would have a discussion based on that person's financial background and criminal background to set an appropriate bond at that point in time. And one other thing too, the municipal court, Alicia has developed some procedures so we can track this, because a lot of it's going to be manual entry. She's developed like a 3-point process of checks and balances, so we can make sure when a case is resolved that OR bond or that no new law violation condition is removed, and somebody doesn't get arrested when the case has been resolved.
Okay, so once they're found guilty in court or whatever happens, the judge releases that bond. Mr. Demarose will keep track of those in court. Once court's over, he'll let our clerk know that's in court to take those conditions off. We have a system that they'll be on, so they'll take them off that system. And then once the clerk has completed that system, I will go back and double check. If I'm not available or I'm on vacation or something, our senior court clerk will go back and check over all of those people and make sure that everything, we'll have a 3-person check to make sure it's taken out so they don't get arrested on something they shouldn't have.
Thank you.
I do have one additional question. As you said, the initial change a few years ago going to the bond, the OR bond was due to federal and state statute changes to be compliant with that. Have you seen, or do you have experience with talking with other municipalities who've had to go to this change and have kind of these exceptions because of the same problems that they've encountered with law enforcement and repeated offenders?
No, I have not had that conversation. I'm not sure how other cities are handling it. I know that we changed hours proactively. So, I think we're kind of at the forefront of that. So I think that some of the issues that we're discussing are things that we are kind of handling for the first time.
Okay.
I do appreciate the overall safety of not only our officers, but everyone involved is really at the forefront. So I appreciate you really taking that into consideration, so.
Thank you, Commissioner. Does anyone have any additional questions for us?
No, I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2769-2018.
There's been a motion to approve
Second.
Resolution 2769-2018, second by Commissioner Unruh. Any other discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve an ordinance consenting to the city's membership in the Kansas Municipal Gas Agency. And this item is also related to item C, so I'll let Mike explain kind of both and how they relate to one another.
Good afternoon again, Mayor and Commissioners. What's before you is, should you approve it, would be an ordinance consenting membership into KMGA, Kansas Municipal Gas Agency. As you know, Garden City is a member of KMEA, the Kansas Municipal Energy Agency, which is just a joint action agency on the electric side, and the gas side is a joint action agency for municipalities with natural gas. Some communities serve natural gas throughout their whole community, like Black Hills does here. This particular ordinance would allow us to join KMGA, and what it would do is the Jameson Energy Center is a natural gas consumer of natural gas when we run those turbines. When it was constructed, a contract was put together between KMEA and, well, it was KMEA and Tenesca, which to provide gas for the Jameson Energy Center. That contract expires in December of 2019. If you move forward and allow us to join membership of KMGA, then KMGA will bid that particular gas product out to determine the best price, and then that price will be given to Garden City. That's what we would pay for gas, for natural gas for that. What it doesn't have anything to do with Black Hills Energy. Black Hills Energy is the distributing co-op, if you will. They get the gas and they distribute it to everyone. They distribute gas to or to Jameson, and they'll continue to do that. It's just the supply of gas that would change. This would just allow us to bid out that gas product.
Hmm. What's the cost to join this? I haven't seen it.
It's $400.
Was it? Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, $400 per year membership fee.
So Mike, does everyone negotiate a price with you, or you're given a bid sheet as far as that, and then you sign a contract for so long, or how's that work with KMGA?
Yeah, they would bid it out. Their natural gas side, they have the whole natural gas side of their organization. They would bid that gas out to the major gas suppliers within the region. And now that we've had 4 years of operation with Jameson, we know pretty much how much gas we'll use and when we'll use it. So they bid it based upon those timeframes. They will visit with us whether we want to do probably a 3-year, 5-year. I don't think we'd go over 5 years for a gas contract. In the event that all of a sudden natural gas, the volatility went sky high or something, we wouldn't want to be locked into something way up there.
Mm-hmm. What's the ordinance number on this,
If
Matt?
approved 2817 for this first ordinance, item B.
Mayor, I'd make a motion that we adopt ordinance number 2817-2018.
There's been a motion.
Second.
And there was a second by Commissioner Fankhauser to approve ordinance 2817-2018. Any other discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
And the related item 10C, if approved, would be ordinance number 2818-2018. Mike, is there anything new they need to know on this one?
This is just a gas acquisition participation agreement that's required.
Entertain a
I'll make
motion for that.
motion that we approve ordinance 2818-2018.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Dale made the second. Any other discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10D, the governing body is asked to consider and approve an environmental nuisance resolution which would remove violations at 2104 North 3rd Street, specifically overgrown shrubs that are in the site triangle. If approved, it would be Resolution 2770-2018. Caleb?
Yes, this is the typical resolution to abate the nuisance conditions for this overgrown shrubs blocking the site triangle. This is, I believe, our second time at this location. We do get complaints in regards to site triangle visibility, whether there was a child on the sidewalk coming around the corner or a vehicle. So we've tried to make contact with the property owners and have had no response from them. And so this is the next step to abate the situation.
What's the legal height that you can have there
30
without
inches.
seeing through?
30 inches is the maximum height.
The maximum height, and how high is that fence?
That is a 3-foot fence there.
Okay, so he's about 6 inches over on, I mean, the fence is over, but are you just gonna take it down to 30 inches, or are you just gonna remove it?
We will probably, the last time we'll probably, if we talk with the property owner, we'll work with them on the project. This has become an issue at this location, and the last time we took it all the way down to the ground.
Wow.
And it's grown back over time, so.
Are we at this property more than 2 or 3 times a year?
Probably not that many times a year, but at least every other year we're there trimming the.
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2770-2018.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Burns made the second. Any other discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed.
Item 10E, the governing body is asked to consider and approve an environmental nuisance resolution. If approved, and this was at 303 North 2nd, an above-ground swimming pool with no protective barrier. If approved, it would be resolution number 2771-2018. Caleb?
Again, this is our next step to abate the environmental nuisance at 303 North 2nd Street in regards to the above-ground swimming pool without the protective barrier and the danger that poses to children and small animals.
Is it empty now and it's not in use?
I don't believe that it is. I believe there's standing water in the bottom of it.
So the nuisance is brought about because it doesn't have a fence to protect
Yes, yeah, the fences are required around all pools, and this is one that's in a dilapidated state as well. So.
Have you been in contact with the owners on this?
Yeah, we've sent notice to them. We have not
Heard anything back from them? Okay.
Go ahead.
Make a motion that we approve Resolution 2771-2018.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's been a second. Any other discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you.
Under new business, section 12, item A, the governing body is asked to consider and allow 3515 East Highway 50, a property outside of the city limits, to connect to city water and sewer. Mike?
Okay.
Thank you, Matt.
Just note that Commissioner Fankhauser is stepping down on this item.
I guess the owner of the property at 3515 East Highway 50 is in the process of constructing a new shop facility on his property, is requesting permission to connect to city water and city sewer. The property's current septic system has failed, and as a result is required to connect to city sanitary sewer if he's within 400 feet of it. This facility, his new shop building, will be about 238 feet from the sanitary sewer. However, the property is not in the city limits. There's a map that will come up here in a minute, once map shows that up. It's not in the city limits, it's adjacent to the city, and it's actually contiguous as well to the city. He'll have to get permission to cross private property to connect his building to the city water line. That's the blue line to the right. And they'll have to get permission from the property owner to connect to sanitary sewer, which is the green line on the top side of that particular slide. He's indicated that he would prefer to get permission to connect to both water and sewer without annexing. I advised him, you know, he is contiguous to the city. Should you advise him, or should you allow him to connect and remain outside the city, you're probably going to require a pre-annexation agreement that allows him to be annexed at any time without protest at all from that property owner, whether it be this property owner or in the future. Or you could not authorize him to connect until he annexes into the city, or just don't authorize him to connect and leave him outside the city limits. Should he not be allowed to connect to city sewer, then of course then a different set of codes will kick in from Caleb's office. They would not be able to have water and sewer in their facilities because there's no place for the sewer to go. So it would just be a cold storage building, I guess, if you would, with electricity. And Wheatland Electric currently serves that piece of property as well. And that's neither here nor there. But he is present. The owner of the property is here. Should you have any questions of him, feel free to come on up. Kind of nervous. But.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
My name is Javier Varela, and I own the property there at 3515 East Highway 50. It's right across the street from the ethanol plant. I wish to connect the city sewer and water because I guess my septic tanks didn't pass. I bought the property. I've been there for 18, 19 years. I barely bought the property about a year and a half ago.
Is it a car repair shop?
Yes, sir. It's a body shop, and we're just wanting to do a warehouse to store cars after they get painted. I'm willing to pay any fees or whatever you guys need for me to do that. So.
And I guess why do you not want to annex into the city?
I mean, if you guys need me to, I will. I have no problem with that.
Okay.
Does that change like the nature of his business or the requirements if he annexes in the city?
No, his property, I believe, is zoned in the county. We'll have to change the zoning at some point. He's already gone through the process through the county, through the Board of Zoning Appeals to do what he's wanting to do. It is required by state statute that if you have a failing system within 400 feet of a public provider of those services, that they be required to connect. And so, but the jurisdiction has the authority to you know, charge any fees or whatever is required for them to connect to that. And so his two alternatives is just as Mike has put in his memo is that either if he stays outside the city limits and he's allowed to connect, he pays double the fees, or he can annex in and pay the inside city rates.
But Mr. Varela's business would not change at all if he decided to annex into the city.
That's right. Currently, he would be non-conforming and being brought into the city limits.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve his allowing him to connect to city water and sewer, and for his discernment whether or not he wants to annex. So regardless of the annex, I say we allow him to connect to city water and sewer.
So you're saying alternative 2?
No, alternative two is do not authorize the property
I do
to
authorize.
connect.
So you're authorizing, and then you're just giving him the option whether
The
to
option.
annex?
Yeah.
Is
I
that
guess
what?
it's not really
Yes,
specific.
option 1.
Contingent upon, I guess it's
Okay.
whatever is required, Mike.
Yeah, and we would just require him to sign a pre-annexation agreement at that time that says he won't contest it at such a point the city chooses to
That
annex.
wasn't what the
That's
commissioner recommended. The commissioner recommended, or
For his, and I'm willing to
Connecting
amend that then. I'll just say connect to city water and sewer contingent upon him signing the pre-annexation agreement, as you worded it. Pardon me.
Second.
number 1.
Okay.
That's all right.
So the motion now stands and has been seconded by Commissioner Unruh. as stating to authorize the property at 3515 East Highway 50 to connect to the city water and sewer contingent upon the owner signing a pre-annexation agreement, correct?
Yes.
Any other discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, thank you.
Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
I apologize for being unclear on that.
No, I was like, yeah, I was trying to find.
That's why there's a memo.
I was trying to find which one of the alternatives it
Yeah.
is.
What?
Thank you for keeping.
Well, how she stated, there was no alternatives.
Well, I
there,
couldn't
so-
figure it, I couldn't.
Yeah, I was kind of
So,
But hey, I can.
we got it.
free-forming it there a little bit. Not appreciated. I got it.
All right, we're ready for item 12B. The governing body's asked to consider and approve a purchase agreement with Finney County to purchase a tract of land located on LaRue Road. Jennifer?
So as you can see, this process is about a year old at this point. The discussion happened back in October of 2017 about buying this piece of property on LaRue Road. And so City Attorney Grizel drafted the agreement. It was then sent to the county councilor and also to the county administrator so they could make any necessary edits or changes. And it has now come back to us with those, and it's before you today to either approve or not approve. And this is a picture of the piece of property that the city would be purchasing for the $22,500.
Yeah, we bid, we submitted a proposal to the county, I think in November or October of 2017. At their request, I think they were willing to take, I guess, some expression of interest prior to putting this on a courthouse steps sale, if I remember the process correctly. And the city submitted a bid at $22,500 and they accepted it.
Do we have a purpose for the property, or is there a reason for owning it?
I think the idea, the discussion at the time when we talked about this property is that it could obviously be sold to anyone if the city chose not to buy it, and any use could go there, and so the city wanted to preserve that piece of property to do with it, either to do nothing with it or to do something with it as we saw fit, and not necessarily have it turn into something that we didn't necessarily think was a good purpose for that location.
At the time, there was also the discussion of the off-ramp of the off-ramp, which this commission has dismissed. And, you know, we would have a piece of property that we would ultimately have to go in and buy anyway. But even if that concept didn't go through, given the shape and the size of this lot, there really didn't seem to be a private use. It started out privately owned, and they determined that really for what they wanted to do, they couldn't fit a building on there. And Caleb may have some additional information on that, but I think ultimately, you know, public art, I mean, it's just sort of it's a remnant piece in my mind, and we can either, but it's big enough that somebody could conceivably do something. I think we're better off protecting it. It's certainly at that price for the time being until there's a little bit of a game plan for how that might be used. You know, this roadway over there too is a little, I think we all recognize it's a little bit quirky in that area. Different generations of commercial development coming together and just sort of fitting together as best it could. Some of this property could be necessary.
Kind of clean up that straight line.
Yeah, there's multiple things when we looked at this piece of property for the dog leg, if you would have it, in the road, to the aesthetic. That's an entryway point coming off of the bypass and coming in off of LaRue Road. The potential future development of that. There's multiple things we looked at when we looked at the viability and future use of this, and I think we would want to protect and use in the best and highest way that we could come up with. So.
It sounds like you did a good job of negotiating it down with the county. They're tough sales.
Use it for a sign, couldn't you? It's commercial.
You could do it, a lot of multiple different things that could go there. Yeah, it could be resold for
The best answer is we don't know, but, but that price is gonna, if there's anything down the road,
Control it.
the kind of courthouse steps pricing is a good way to sort of preserve that and a bit of an insurance policy moving forward.
I'll entertain a motion that we approve the purchase agreement with Finney County on the tract of land on Little Road. Is there a
So
second?
moved. I'll make a motion.
Well, I made the motion.
Oh, you made the
Do I
motion. I'll make the second.
Okay.
No, I thought you were
I made
entertaining
the-
a motion.
Well, I made the motion.
Okay.
Commissioner Fankhauser made the second. Any other discussion on that item? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Item 12C, the governing body is asked to consider and approve extending the 2018 underground conduit and streetlight installation contract. Mike?
Thank you, Matt. In January 2nd of back in 2017, the City Commission approved the underground conduit streetlight installation contract to Dick Construction. We received 2 bids at that time, one from Dick Construction, the other one was from Dryling Construction. Dryling did not submit a complete bid, therefore it was rejected, and Dick Construction was awarded the bid. In the bid document, this particular bid can be awarded for 2 additional years, 1 year at a time. Gary Dick, owner of Dick Construction, has submitted documentation where his prices will remain the same through 2019. If he was awarded through 2019, and it's our recommendation that that occur. Gary Dick is here, should you have questions for him, but also a representative from Spear Construction, who may have some comments regarding the bid process or whether it should be bid out in 2019. So if they're here, they're more than welcome to come up. If they're here, okay, would you like to speak to the commission? Sure. You don't have to. And Gary's here from Dick Construction as well, should you have questions of him.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Scott Daniel, I'm filling in for Eric Fournier, who represents Spear Construction. And Gary doesn't want to make any waves on this deal. He just want an opportunity to bid. It is a public works project. In 2018, he inquired why he hadn't been given notice of an intent to bid, and was told that his bid failed. And he goes, "What are you talking about?" "Well, I'll send you a copy of it." I think Mike's the one that provided that to him, but that was the Dryling Construction bid. Garrett, who's been in the business for 18 years, he started with, actually his dad was a ditcher he was on a ditcher when he was 8, but he spent 6 years with Foltz, 6 years with Underground Specialties, and 6 years with Gary before he started his own business, and he's been in business about 6 years. He is now on the contractors list of receiving notices, but he wasn't in 18. He called and said, "Well, what I got to do to bid on this project for 2019?" And that's why I'm here today, to educate him on whether there's going to be an opportunity to bid on this upcoming year's contract or not.
Okay.
And he has no beef with Gary or anybody else. It's just an opportunity to bid.
Sure.
So,
Just for clarification, the bid was advertised in 2017 on the city's webpage and in the newspaper, as we typically do with all of the city bids. They did not submit a bid at that time. The current bid allows for the current contract to be extended 1 year at a time, should you so choose to do so, and Gary has submitted that he would like to do that. We have no issues with his work, and so that's what's in front of you. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Entertain a motion to approve the.
Gary.
Oh, Gary, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, we appreciate working with the city and, do the process since we were low bid in January when this happened. Once we were awarded the contract with the possibility of 2 to 3 years, we went ahead and invested over $100,000 in additional equipment and staff to make all the city needs. Not only do we help them with the electric department, we are on emergency call 24 hours for the electric and water department. We appreciate their business. They've been very good to work for, and we hope that you do approve it.
Thank you.
I move that we approve the contract through, contract extension through 2019.
There's been a motion.
Second.
Commissioner Fankhauser made the second. Any other discussion on that item? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Item 12D, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the appointment of Jett Desalvo to the Airport Advisory Board for a second term. Rochelle?
Good afternoon. Jett has currently served the Airport Advisory Board for a 3-year term and is interested in serving a second one. She's been vital to our board, serving on the CIP committee twice and a year as our chairperson. Our current members include her, Tyler Dinas, Darren Gurman, Blair Loving, Charlie Robinson, Michael Richmeyer, and Carmen De La Torre. We also have 7 applications on file for interested parties that have selected specifically just the airport or just any board that they're interested on to serve on. Brad Springston currently serves on the Police and Citizens Advisory Board. Those applications are attached if you have questions on those. The advisory board met last Thursday and recommended appointment of Jett back onto the board for a second consecutive 3-year term.
I appreciate Jett's attendance. I've seen her at other advisory committees, and her attendance is exceptional, and I think she does a great job for any committee she's on. So I would recommend that we reappoint Jett Desalvo to the Airport Advisory Board for a second term.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Any discussion on that item? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
12E, the governing body is asked to consider and approve filling the open position on the Building Safety Board of Appeals. Caleb?
Yes, you have, we have one opening on the Building Safety Board of Appeals. It's a 6-member board and has a need for 1 licensed residential contractor appointment to be filled. Mel Travers' term expired August 1st, 2018, and has not expressed interest in serving again. David German has applied to serve on the Building Safety Board of Appeals. This is a 3-year term, beginning January 1st, 2019, and in 2021. At this time, we do not have any other applicants at this time. Your alternatives are to appoint David German to term beginning in January 2019 and ending in 2021, or do not make an appointment and continue to solicit interest in serving in the Building Safety Board of Appeals Commission. Staff recommends the governing body fill the open appointment.
I'll make a motion to appoint David Gurman to the term beginning 1 January 2019, ending December 31st on 2021.
Second. There's been a motion and a second. Any other discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you.
Item 12F, the governing body is asked to consider and approve filling the 3 open positions on the Landmarks Commission. Caleb?
The Landmarks Commission is a 5-member board and has 3 terms expiring. Julie Christner's term is set to expire December 31st, 2018. Ms. Christner has expressed interest in serving another term. Valerie Hess and Brian Nelson's second terms are set to expire December 31st of 2018. Ms. Hess and Mr. Nelson are interested in seeking a waiver from the governing body to serve a 3rd term. All 3 terms are set to begin January 1st, 2019 and end December 31st, 2021. This time we do not have any other applicants interested that we've received. Your alternatives are to reappoint Julie Christner, Valerie Hess, and Brian Nelson to terms beginning January 1st, 2019 and expiring December 31st, 2021. Alternative 2 is appoint any combination of the following applicants to terms set to begin January 1st, 2019 and expire December 31st, 2021, which would include Julie, Valerie, and Brian. Or do not make any appointment and continue to solicit interest in serving on the Landmarks Commission. Staff recommends that the governing body fill the 3 open appointments. And again, it would require a waiver for the appointment of Valerie and Brian.
How often do they meet, this advisory board?
Usually every quarter. Just depending on the number of cases that we have come up. The least we've met is probably once a year, and we've gone through spells where we've met monthly.
Entertain a motion on that item.
I move that we appoint Julie Christner, Valerie Hess, and Brian Nelson to the Landmarks Board.
There's been a motion. Is there a
Motion.
second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you.
Item 12G, the governing body is asked to consider and appoint a board member to fill the vacant seat left by Jamie Warren on the Garden City Recreation Commission. Warren's term expires in February of 2019. And I think this request is that the appointee serve a term expiring in 2023.
Yes, that's correct. Afternoon, Commissioners.
Aaron?
So Jamie Warren, who's kind of been our financial guru over the past few years, based on his past experience, is elected not to seek a second term. His term expires in February. We were lucky enough to have Eric Schaefer, who also has quite a bit of financial experience, agree to join our board. Our board met and interviewed him basically last month at our meeting, and would put forth the recommendation to you that we appoint him to fill that vacant seat in February of 2019 for a 4-year term. And Eric is here if you have questions for him.
I appreciate it. Well, I know Eric Schaefer, and I appreciate your commitment to exercise and recreation and fitness overall, and I hope you can put up with Aaron for that long. And so I hope you interviewed Aaron and their board as much as they interviewed you. So.
I'll make a motion that we approve Eric Schaefer to the Recreation Board.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's been a second. Any discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Item H is a request to go into executive session. We don't anticipate any action necessary after that executive session, so we'll move on to the consent agenda and then the commission reports, and then we can close down the Channel 8 broadcast and go into executive session. So unless there's something you want to pull off the consent agenda to discuss separately, the appropriate motion would be to approve the consent agenda items I1 through 5.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda I1 through 5.
There's been a motion to approve the consent agenda I1 through 5. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's been a second. Any discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed. We just want to go on to commission reports and then, okay. Commissioner Fankhauser.
My wife and I attended the CVB Christmas party, and it was interesting. Had a lot of gifts. About everyone that attended got a gift. So I just wanted to congratulate those that were awarded the Community Service Award, and also the Explorer Troop for doing what they do. They've been real active and done a good job. I'd like to also just publicly thank Ashley Freeberg for all of her service to the city and all the speeches she wrote for me when I was mayor and a few other things, but she did a great job. I wasn't here Thursday, so I didn't get to, I guess she had a farewell party. I missed that. I was out of town, so just wanted to mention that. And I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Okay, so.
Commissioner Dale.
Yeah, pretty much the same as my friend Commissioner Fankhauser, the referencing to the Boy Scouts, the Explorer Scouts. It's great that we got that unit here, and I thank the chief for being brave enough a few years ago to reestablish that back here in our community. It was here for a while and disappeared, but I'm glad you had desire to do that and go along with your patrol officers that wanted to get that back into their unit. And there's a couple of things I think that go on at the high school. One is the Explorer is a great thing for the kids there. They see these people, young men and ladies walking around in their uniforms, and they're seeing them downtown. And the other thing is the ROTC junior unit out there. That just, some of these kids look for something to be involved in, to be recognized, and I thank the high school for having that unit there, and thank you, Chief, for that. And I just want to say Merry Christmas to everybody, and keep your prayers and thoughts going for first responders that are not at home this year for Christmas, and think of the ones that are on the streets, our fellow citizens that'll be working on the December the 25th. That's all I have.
Commissioner Enright.
So tonight, if you have nowhere to be, there is an incredible concert at the high school. You know, really all of the schools have been doing some incredible concerts, and so if you lack something to do and you need a boost and pick me up, there is a winter concert or Christmas concert at Garden City High School, and so that's tonight. We're really excited about that. I also wanted to say thank you, especially to the Chief and Officer Scrivener and Officer Edlinger about just, I've seen personal transformation. My son being an explorer, I've seen the personal transformation in this young man, but also those in the unit. And so it's nothing less than phenomenal. I'm hoping you can capture many of these young people to stay in Garden City and stay in Kansas. I also just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a safe and Happy New Year, and we are excited about next year. 2019 is going to be a banner year in Garden City.
You had something else, Commissioner
I
Dale?
do have one other thing. I believe it was Thursday night. I'm not mistaken. Maybe Saturday night. I'm not sure what night it was. It just happened a few days ago. I had this big yellow bus pull up out in front of the house about 6:30, and about 30 young ladies come off the bus with their teachers, and it was a 3rd and 4th grade class, and they caroled us with about 3 different songs, and it was really neat. They videotaped it, and I'm campaigning with those with the power to be to try to get it put on the Garden City net to show it. It was really neat to have these young ladies there that night.
Thank you.
To me?
Yes, to you, Commissioner Burns.
Yay. I want to highlight the progress that we've made on our goals as a city that we discussed in the pre-meeting. I thought that was very gratifying, and I want to thank everyone. This has been an exceptionally fun and enlightening year for me, as my first term ends on the commission, my first year of my first term ends, and I've really enjoyed it, really learned so much, and I appreciate the professionalism of the staff. They come to every single meeting prepared beyond, and it's really been a wonderful first year. And again, I look forward to 2019. On a more somber note, I draw attention to the Suicide Awareness Month for veterans this year. This month. It is a joyous time of year for so many, but it's a very difficult time for so many too. And if you're struggling, there are resources in our community. Compass Behavioral Health is there. The hospital emergency room is there. The National Suicide Hotline is there. And as we've seen with people in our community who are just willing to help out, if you need help, call a neighbor, tell someone. Someone will help you. And I think that you can count on that in this community. Someone will help you. And that's something to be very thankful for this time of year too. That's all.
Again, I'd like to ditto all the comments made by my fellow commissioners. I want to promote the Police Citizens Academy that's coming up in January. If you want to kind of find out what's going on behind the scenes, it gives you a lot better idea of what goes on with the police department. They also have a Students Citizens Academy. It's kind of the same, but a little different because it's focused on the students, and it kind of promotes kind of the Explorers program and getting involved in that as well. But very good programs. Also, if you're interested, like we approved a lot of our citizens in our community be on advisory boards, I highly recommend applying and helping out on our advisory boards. The advisory boards help us in making decisions in our community. So again, thank you all that are on the advisory boards and what you do. And then kind of wrapping up, I also would like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And if you are traveling, please travel safely. And at that, we will go into, you want to take a 5-minute break before we go into executive session?
That'd be fine.
How long will the executive session last, do we think?
I think 15 minutes
About
should
15?
be
Okay.
ample.
We'll take a 5-minute, do we want to make the motion first? We'll take a 5-minute break and we'll recess and we'll come back at 2:15. We'll be back and go into executive session at that point.
Oh, no.